Corporations will continue to eat the costs of Trump's tariffs. This is difficult. I'm going to say no because I'm a hater. And I think it looks like you're going to disagree with me, so get into it.
So, yes, with an asterisk.
Okay.
So, Goldman Sachs came out with its first big analysis of the tariffs through June and its projection with where we're kind of in like a stasis after we finally met Trump's, 90-day plus a month plus whatever deadline, where we more or less know where the tariffs sit. So, at the start of the year, the average weighted tariff rate on all imports into the U.S. was about 2.3%. Now it's 18. By the end of June, I think it was like 13.
Okay.
13 to 18 is a better increase than 13 to, 49% or whatever the original Liberation Day schedule was. But it's not nothing, right? Yeah. It is an increase. So Goldman estimated that through June, the overwhelming majority of the cost has been borne by businesses, about 64%. Consumers have borne 22%, and foreign exporters only 14%, right? The projection through the rest of the year, if the tariffs go forward as they are right now, they say that businesses and consumers will basically switch the burden. So consumers will bear 2/3 of the expense, businesses about 10%, and foreign exporters still only 1/4. The reason why I say corporations will still bear a lot of the burden is because the import costs are still, you have a company, like let's say you have a car company, and even if you build the car in the US, or even if you are USMCA compliant with Mexico, which means no import, none of the 25% addendum tariff, just 0% tariff. Let's say you need aluminum or steel from another country in order to import that. Then you're doing 25% import costs. So there is a reason why manufacturing employment have gone down, but I think we've lost 32,000 manufacturing jobs in the last 3 months alone. So corporations will pay the price in a way that won't necessarily show up in the exact data. It will be because the biggest concern with tariffs has never really been inflation, but rather economic growth. The inflationary, even Goldman concedes that inflation, which is core PCE for June, was 2.8%. They said that without the tariffs, it would be 2.4. That's sizable, it's statistically significant, but that's not a massive amount. And over time, it's not as though the tariffs are expected to have a prolonged effect. It's that you have a one-time, let's say, takes 6 months for the cost to trickle in, and then inflation levels off over the next year. But the growth hampering, that's real. Companies will permanently have to say, all right, well, we can't afford to import however many tons of aluminum. We only have this fixed amount that we can afford. So then you have less employment.
Okay. I agree with you. And, I do want to talk about the projections for a second, because projections, as soon as Trump came into office, was that this is going to be incredibly inflationary. And we haven't exactly seen that borne out yet in the price data. Prices on a lot of commodities are up, especially food prices and energy prices. You would think with what they're doing in terms of boosting domestic drilling and oil production, that would help alleviate some of that pressure. But the problem here doesn't actually have to do with economic theory. It has to do with capitalism. This is America, right? What did Joe Biden tell us when he was trying to rewrite his tax code? The richest need to pay their fair share. Corporations need to suck it up. You can be a billionaire, I don't care about that, but you shouldn't be paying less than a school teacher or something like that. This is more or less what Donald Trump is doing. He is telling these companies to, in perpetuity, because these tariffs are, in his mind, going to be permanent, just suck it up and accept that they will make fewer profits. Their profit margins will be smaller. But this is a closed system, right? The world isn't run by modern monetary theory, the school prescribed to you by AOC and other progressives, which essentially says that debt isn't real and we can spend our way out of every single social problem existing in the modern society. These companies have a finite set of capital with which they can either expand their businesses, grow, like you pointed to, or compensate their workers. So even if prices aren't up at, say, Walmart or on Amazon.com or at your local grocery store, those people working for those companies will make less money.
Yes.
And that will eventually filter out to the entire country. Now, I do think one of the reasons we haven't seen price increases come up necessarily is because these big firms, whether they are the actual companies themselves or American importers, really didn't know where the line was going to be with the tariffs. We had seen retailers declining to raise prices, even if their import costs were up on some of those sectoral goods, specifically the steel and aluminum and copper components. But now that it's August and all of these tariffs are implemented, with the exception of China, and we might be having an announcement on that as you're watching this episode, Trump kept moving the goalposts. But now this is here and this is happening. And collectively, as a whole, all of these companies are going to have an opportunity to say, well, we continue to be good stewards of our consumers at home, or we can do what we've done forever, and that's to make as much money as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a problem. I mean, America is a capitalist society. But Donald Trump is out of his mind if, just like Joe Biden, he thinks these companies are going to willingly make less money, right?
Yeah.
So it will eventually, the bill will come due. American consumers or American workers, however you want to frame it, your buying power will be limited, either because of increased prices or decreased wages. And I don't think that is a trap that the Trump administration can necessarily get out of.
No, and frankly, I think the alternative to this is what Trump has done with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA now is saying, so effectively, the White House is charging an export license. They are saying 15% of all profits that NVIDIA makes selling chips in China has to go back to the federal government. It's a 15% effective export license. That, to me, makes far more sense because it is focused on the national security priority of decoupling from China, gives the government revenue, and doesn't punish American consumers. Again, half of this just goes back to the Peter Navarro bonkers, conspiracy theories about how trade balances work and the idea that it's bad for America to have a trade deficit, which it's not a bad thing for reasons that we've explained on the show in ample length. But the tariff issue for Trump is that, yes, it hasn't harmed inflation too much. Even in Goldman's projections, it won't have too much inflationary power. Yes, it is coupled with the pro-growth policies in one big beautiful bill. But in the end, if Donald Trump's whole game is cut the interest rates, this ain't it.